This video was made in collaboration with the Hunterpedia. For more information, check out the link in the description. The life of Gon Freecss, Hunter x Hunter. Gon Freecss is a rookie hunter and the son of Ging Freecss. Finding his father is Gon's motivation in becoming a hunter. He's been the main protagonist for most of the series, having said role in the Hunter Exam, Zoldyck Family, Heaven's Arena, Greed Island, and Chimera Ant arcs. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Gon Freecss. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media accounts. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Background. At the age of 20, Ging Freecss returned home to Whale Island for the first time in 8 years carrying his infant son, Gon. When questioned about the child's mother, Ging simply mentioned that the pair had separated. While Ging tried to leave Gon in his grandmother's care for a little while, Ging's cousin Mito was infuriated at Ging's parenting and got custody through the courts. Ging left Whale Island never to return. Since his early youth, due to his father's absence and Mito's dislike of Ging, Gon was told that his parents died in an accident when he was a baby. At the age of 9, however, Gon was rescued from an angry mother fox bear by a man named Kite, a professional hunter and a student of Gon's long-lost father. After hitting Gon in the face, Kite attempted to kill the fox bear's cub, but Gon protected it. Kite admitted to looking for Ging as a final test to be seen by his master as a true hunter. Kite's admiration for Ging awoke in Gon the goal of meeting his father. In order to do so, Gon was driven from that moment to obtain a hunter license, also desiring to know what would cause Ging to choose his profession as a hunter over being a parent as his motivation for becoming a hunter. Growing up, Gon was homeschooled and the only friend his age he had was Noko. The rustic life endowed him with keener senses and higher physical abilities than most. As he told Kite, he managed to bond with the fox bear cub. On the occasions where all-female ships landed on Whale Island, Gon would take them to town and they would teach him a lot of stuff. Hunter Exam Arc. Gon is first seen fishing on a Whale Island bog for the Master of the Swamp, a fish so enormous that 5 grown fishermen pulling together couldn't land it. But Gon succeeds in catching it after a week of work. He made a wager with Aunt Mito Freecss that if he could catch the fish, she would allow him to take part in the Hunter Exam. After getting Mito's consent on his application to the Hunter Exam, Gon proceeds to say a bittersweet farewell to Kon, a fox bear cub raised by the boy following his first encounter with Kite. Gon returns home and speaks to Mito. She asks if Gon always knew his father's trade, and also tells him his father left Gon with her when he was still a baby. Gon replies that being a hunter must be an important job if family comes second, and that it's time for him to meet his father. He's then seen preparing to board a ship heading for the Hunter Exam. Everyone in the town comes to say goodbye and wishes him luck. Aunt Mito comes and tells him that his father didn't abandon him. She made him give up Gon through the courts. Gon says he knew because she never looks at him when she's lying. He gets on the boat and yells back to her that he'll return as a great hunter. Preliminary phase. The first night on the boat, there's a huge storm that tosses around most of the would-be hunters. After the storm, the ship's drunkard of a captain walks around to see only 3 candidates still able to move. One of them, Gon, is running back and forth trying to take care of the seasick. Later on, Gon is standing on the front of the boat where he predicts they'll be hit by another storm, but this time it'll be 3 times the size of the previous night. The captain knows he's correct and not guessing. He sees Ging in Gon. He asks who Gon's father is, which confirms his first impression. The captain shows Gon how to steer the boat and announces that the next storm is coming and that anyone who wants off should leave. All but Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio leave. The captain inquires why they want to be hunters. Gon answers immediately while the other 2 don't. Leorio asks why they should tell him when he just steers the ship. The captain replies that he screens applicants and that it's up to him whether or not they pass. The remaining 2 tell him. While explaining, Kurapika annoys Leorio to the point where they go out into the storm to fight. When Katso falls overboard, Gon jumps after him, catching him and narrowly escaping falling into the ocean thanks to Kurapika and Leorio grabbing his ankles in time to pull them both back on board. When they reach land, the captain gives them a hint to head to a lone cedar tree outside of the city to find their navigators. Gon decides to go and Kurapika tags along. Leorio splits off to take the bus to Zaban City, but rejoins them when he overhears that it's a trick to weed out the weak. Later, they reach a village that seems to be deserted, but Gon and Kurapika hear sounds of people. Then, the whole population of the village comes out to start the mind-boggling 2-choice quiz. The leader of the village asks 2 questions and all they can say is 1 or 2. A man who had been tailing them walks in and says he'll go first. She asks him, "Men have taken your mother and true love captive. Who do you save?" He chooses 1, the mother, and is allowed to pass. Leorio starts yelling because of the preposterous question. Kurapika tells him to be quiet because he and Gon have figured out the riddle. She asks another impossible question, and after the time limit's up, with none of them having said an answer, Leorio tries to attack her. Kurapika blocks it, stating they passed since silence was the real answer. He adds that he heard the other man scream, meaning he was attacked. In the meanwhile, Gon keeps agonizing over the riddle until he declares he can't find an answer. To Kurapika and Leorio, who are content with passing the test, he replies that the day may come when he really has to choose. After a few hours, the trio reaches a house and finds the navigator couple being attacked by a magical beast called a Kiriko. When the beast takes off with the lady, Gon and Kurapika launch themselves in pursuit while Leorio stays behind to take care of a man. Gon is amazed to find out that the Kiriko can talk. He pulls ahead of Kurapika, closes in on the Kiriko, and bashes him in the head. The Kiriko drops the wife, who's caught by Kurapika. Gon continues to pursue it until it confronts him into a clearing. Gon merely hits it and asks where the one he hit went to. It's revealed that the two Kiriko and the couple are a family and the navigators, and Gon was the first human in years capable of telling the wife apart from the husband. The Kiriko fly the three to the hunter exam site. The next day, they arrive in Zaban City. They initially assume a majestic building as the exam hall, but a disguised Kiriko takes them to a small restaurant. The disguised magical beast orders a specific meal, then the cook sits them in a room and delivers the meal. The room is actually an elevator that starts to drop. As they make their way down, Kurapika and Leorio try to find out whether Gon is taking the test for gain or for justice, but he's unable to answer before the doors of the elevator open. They're immediately greeted by Tonpa, who introduces himself as a friend trying to help Gon. Then he introduces some of the other regulars, such as Bourbon the Snake Charmer, Toto the Wrestler, the Amori brothers, Cherry, and Greta the Huntsman. Tonpa then offers Gon and the other two some juice. Gon, being the first to taste it, spits it out saying it tastes funny, leading Kurapika and Leorio to dump theirs to the ground. Afterwards, Tonpa makes a hasty apology. Satots, the examiner of the first phase, begins the 287th hunter exam with a multi-marathon run through the underground tunnel. A boy on a skateboard notices Gon and introduces himself as Killua. The pair spends the majority of the first phase getting to know each other. Gon notices Leorio faltering around the 60-kilometer mark. He stops and silently waits until Leorio gets his second wind, the man dropping his briefcase in the process. Gon uses his fishing pole to grab Leorio's attaché and carries it. After running for 80 kilometers, they come to a set of stairs and start climbing, while Satot starts to pick up the pace. Gon discusses his reasons for wanting to become a professional hunter with Killua until the pair reach the exit of the tunnel. Gon is warned by Killua to stay close to Satots, as he can sense that Hisoka will use the cover of the mist to satiate his bloodlust. The boys continue ahead, but Gon turns around after hearing Leorio scream. Gon then saves Leorio from Hisoka, who had been murdering applicants in an attempt to play proctor. Gon pursues Hisoka to no avail, silently attacking until he's caught and choked. However, Hisoka takes an interest in Gon and spares the lives of him and his friends. While Hisoka carries Leorio to the destination of the second phase, Gon and Kurapika follow behind him at a distance. Gon mentions that he was afraid of Hisoka and wanted to run away, but he couldn't, and he was simultaneously excited at the same time. Having the experience of mortal fear for the first time in his entire life, Gon can't control his growing curiosity. Second phase. The second phase of the hunter exam takes place in the Visca Forest Preserve, where the examinees meet gourmet hunters and proctors Menchi and Buhara, who have split the phase into two tests. Buhara's test is to find the world's most dangerous pig and to roast it. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio comb through the forest reserve and find a drift of great stamp. Amidst his battle with one of the boar, Gon again takes notice of how situations that threaten his life also give him a rush. However, he also realizes that he needs bigger thrills. Gon and his friends complete the task easily along with 70 other applicants. Menchi's test ends up baffling nearly all of the applicants after she tells them to make sushi for her test. Due to being a traditional dish of Japan, only Hanzo ends up knowing what it is, yet Menchi still fails him. Gon is clueless to a solution until it's revealed to all of the examinees, but to no avail. Menchi overreacts to the applicants' dismissive comments about gourmet hunters and fails the entire group as a result, forcing Netero, chairman over the Hunter Association, to intervene. The test is taken to Split Mountain, where examinees hunt for spider eagle eggs. 42 applicants pass the second phase, and some die because they fall. A game at midnight. The 42 remaining examinees board the selection committee's airship at the end of the day, where Beans explains that the next phase of the exam will begin at 8 a.m. in the morning. As everyone rests up for tomorrow, Gon and Killua spend their time getting to know each other. Killua tells Gon about how he has to run away from home in order to escape his overbearing family of assassins until being interrupted by Netero, who offers to immediately issue the boys hunter licenses if they can grab a ball from him. The two give it their best efforts individually with no progress made until they attack Netero together. Though they come seemingly close to succeeding, Netero shatters their hopes by proving the game impossible to win after revealing that he has not used 2 of his limbs at all. Gon, however, continues to play until he forces Netero to use his right hand through a near-suicide tactic. When he succeeds in doing so, Gon passes out in exhaustion. Third phase. The next morning, the Hunter Association's airship arrives at the top of Trick Tower, a prison filled with traps in order to prevent its inmates from escaping. Beans informs the 40 remaining applicants that the objective of the third phase is to reach the bottom of the tower alive within 72 hours. Gon and Killua survey the area and discover there to be trapdoors embedded within the floor. They report their findings to Kurapika and Leorio, and each goes through a trapdoor, coincidentally all landing in the same room. The 4 learn that they have inadvertently selected the path of majority rules. Lippo, one of the 3 proctors over the third phase, explains that the group is required to proceed through the tower based upon the decision belonging to the majority. However, the group is forced to team up with Tonpa after he slips through the ceiling. After a couple of hours of walking, the group comes to an arena over a seemingly bottomless pit. Their first challenge is to win 3 out of 5 competitive matches, using any type of method, against convicts sentenced to life imprisonment. Tonpa purposely fails the first match and proves to be untrustworthy. Gon faces the next prisoner, a serial bomber by the name of Sedokan, in a match to see whose candle burns the longest. Sedokan presents Gon the choice of one of the candles, one short and one long, in a desperate choice. Gon selects the long candle, but it's later revealed that Sedokan had rigged the game for the boy to fail. Using his wits, Gon wins his match and is the first to attain victory on his team. Kurapika manages to win his trial as well, facing off against a Phantom Troop imposter in a deathmatch. Leorio, pitted against a prisoner in a gambling match, loses both the round and 50 hours of their time as well. Although Killua is victorious in the 5th round, the team is forced to wait for 50 hours inside of a room due to Leorio's loss. With only 9 hours remaining in the Trick Tower, the team works together until they reach a crossroad that happens to be their final test on the path of majority rules. After some bickering, Gon comes up with a clever solution that allows all 5 to successfully pass the third phase of the Hunter exam. Fourth phase. The fourth phase is a manhunt on Zevil Island, wherein the 25 remaining competitors being required to target and acquire their praise number badge. Gon draws Hisoka and is thrilled by the hunt. Upon arrival, Gon struggles to come up with a way to acquire Hisoka's badge until he observes a hunt for the first time, as Paco does so in front of him. Thus, Gon spends an entire day and his next morning learning how to hunt through attempting to reel in live prey using his fishing rod. Gon realizes that hunting requires waiting to strike as your prey attacks his own target. He chooses this method to attempt to steal Hisoka's badge. With his training completed, Gon thereafter utilizes hemotropic butterflies, a type of butterfly attracted to the scent of blood, to stalk Hisoka. Gon finds the man, naturally silences his presence by slowing his heart rate and stopping his breathing, and lies in wait. Gon waits until Goz, another applicant, accosts Hisoka for a fight in front of him. He sees it as his chance to put his new skills into practice, but Hisoka refuses to fight the suicidal warrior. Gitaraker suddenly intervenes and kills Goz, his target. Gon watches as Hisoka and Gitaraker have a conversation as if they were friends, the new party giving the magician a badge he took from another applicant. Night falls and Hisoka resumes stalking for prey, eventually spotting Kurapika and Leorio from a distance. He chooses to pursue them. Gon follows behind Hisoka and realizes that his 2 new friends are being targeted. Conflicted, Gon initially decides to stick with his plan until he realizes that it would also mean sacrificing his friends, thereafter resolving to help them if the situation took a turn for the worst. The duo manages to negotiate their way out of any danger from Hisoka, and Gon continues to watch them. Hisoka's bloodlust flares overnight and shoots a terrible fear through Gon. It's the first time he ever feels such an ominous aura. The next day, Gon manages to get Hisoka's numbered plate and is temporarily paralyzed when shot by Gereta with a blow dart coated in a muscle relaxant. Hisoka then kills Gereta, but gives Gon back his plate and then his own. Gon manages to stand to his feet and refuses Hisoka's charity, insisting the magician take back his plate. The former refuses, punching the latter and declaring that he won't take his badge back until he can retaliate. Gon spends the night quietly seething over the violation to his pride. During the fourth phase's final day, Gon finds Leorio and Kurapika and chooses to help Leorio to acquire his target's badge from Ponzu. He's confronted by Kurapika after the phase ends. Gon confesses what happened to him and expresses the humiliation and frustration he feels from losing, shedding tears. Kurapika lifts his spirits as the two head towards the Hunter exam's final phase. Final phase. The final phase was a tournament with each of the participants. After being selected by the judges as being the most exceptional applicant, Hanzo and Gon face off first. Gon is outmatched when it comes to combat, but his unwillingness to submit causes Hanzo to forfeit the battle, making Gon the first applicant to pass the 287th Hunter exam. At first, Gon refuses to accept the win, insisting that the two of them, he and Hanzo, can figure out a way to have the proper match. Hanzo, annoyed, knocks Gon out and the boy doesn't awake until the exam ends. Satots fills in the details and explains to Gon that only two people didn't pass the exam, Botoro and Killua. It's revealed that Gitaraker is actually an alias for Killua's older brother, Illumi. Killua was manipulated into murdering another contestant and subsequently failed the exam. Gon, enraged, confronts Illumi, breaking the assassin's wrists in the process, and gets Killua's address. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio all then depart to Killua's home on Kukuru Mountain. Zoldyck Family Arc. Along with Kurapika and Leorio, Gon heads to Killua's house on Kukuru Mountain in order to bring him back. After reaching the Zoldyck estate, the trio is blocked by a gate requiring 4 tons of force to open. Gon attempts to reason with a Zoldyck butler named Goto, but reaches an impasse. The latter adamantly opposed to his entry. Gon then tries to break into the estate on an impulse until he's calmed down by Zebro, the gatekeeper. Zebro introduces the trio to Mike, a trained Zoldyck attack dog, putting great fear into Gon. Zebro takes the trio back to his quarters near Kukuru Mountain and allows them to weight train under him for 2 weeks in order to gain the strength to open the testing gate themselves. They then proceed towards the mountain and are again blocked, this time by Butler's apprentice named Canary. Ordered never to let anyone pass, she expels intruders through force. Gon spends the day walking towards her and consequently gets walloped by her. His tenacity touches Canary, who wavers and leads the trio to the butler's quarters in order to meet with Killua. While the trio wait for Killua to arrive, Goto, infuriated by the audacity of Gon to try and remove Killua from his family, threatens the lives of the trio and Canary under the guise of a game. Thanks to some quick thinking and sharp eyesight, Gon is victorious and earns Goto's approval. Killua arrives and the reunited four depart from the Republic of Padokia. As the four head to the nearest airport, the four discuss their plans now that the Hunter exam has ended. Gon, still angry about his humiliation in the 4th phase, wishes to find Hisoka, punch him in the face, and return the badge he was given. Kurapika plans to go to Yorknew City on September 1st for the Southern Peace Auction due to a tip he received from Hisoka regarding the Phantom Troop. Leorio informs the group of his immediate plans to study for his medical school exams. The four vow to reunite in Yorknew City in September, and the Elder Two depart. Heaven's Arena Arc. With Killua as his sole companion, Gon is at a loss as to how to accomplish his immediate goal. By drawing a line on the ground, Killua shows him the overwhelming power gap between him, Hisoka, and Hanzo, later adding himself at Gon's request. He adds that Gon cannot beat Hisoka by training for a mere 6 months, which Gon agrees with. Killua suggests training their combat skills and earning money at the Heaven's Arena. They spend the last of their money to fly to the city where the building is. Following Killua's suggestion, Gon writes in his form that he has 10 years worth of combat experience. Gon is awed by the various matches and also by the revelation that Killua had already been there and it had taken him 2 years to reach the 200th floor. Gon is called for his match and Killua tells him to just push the opponent. Although Gon has never really fought before, he finds that his strength has increased considerably after training at Kukuru Mountain, and he effortlessly pushes his adversary out of bounds, earning the right to go to the 50th floor. Gon and Killua meet a boy named Zushi. The young student is Shingen Ryu Kung Fu and the disciple of Wing. Gon and Zushi are baffled by the prizes awarded at higher floors and also by Killua having managed to squander the money he won in the past in snacks. Killua and Zushi are called to compete against each other. Gon wins his own match without problems and waits for his friend. Killua explains his belatedness as Zushi being in the possession of a mysterious secret technique whose ominous vibrations reminded him of his brother. The technique, which his teacher called Ren, made him more resilient against his attacks, which should have knocked him out. He then states that he wants to go all the way to the top floor, which was Gon's intention from the start. The two win 4 more matches and earn the right to a room, having reached the 100th floor. Killua warns Gon that the caliber of their opponents will increase, but Gon effortlessly makes it to the 150th floor. After cashing in his prize, Gon brings up Zushi and Ren and suggests asking the former about the technique. His explanation, however, is unintelligible to them. When Wing shows up, Killua convinces him to explain it to them. The four relocate to his hotel room. He proceeds to illustrate the Nen of the Flame to them. He first calmly states he will kill Killua, then repeats his utterance after performing the 4 steps, which causes Killua to leap away and Gon to shiver with fear. The two leave, but Killua tells Gon that Wing lied to them, and that no mental technique could have allowed Zushi to survive a strike that should have been lethal. When they reach the 200th floor, they find themselves unable to walk down the hallway to register, as an intense bloodlust stops them in their tracks. Gon wonders if the one responsible is the floor's clerk until Hisoka reveals himself. He explains he tracked them through the internet and warns them they're not ready for the 200th floor. He waves his hand and they're again struck with dread, unable to advance. Wing tells them that they can't overcome his nen through effort alone without dying and decides to train them. Gon asks the clerk what will happen if they're not back by midnight, which in his case would result in starting over on the first floor, whereas in Killua's, in a permanent ban. Back in Wing's hotel room, he demonstrates a non-hostile Ren, which they manage to sense faintly. After he teaches them about the true Nen, a skill utilizing the technician's life energy for combat, they're shocked to see him crack a wall just by laying his hand on it. Wing then proposes to forcefully open their aura nodes through an injection of Hatsu, specifying it's a dangerous method. Gon, however, is confident they can rely on him. He removes his jacket as instructed and can feel Wing's aura as a hot force pushing against him. When Wing jolts his and Killua's aura nodes open, they see their aura gushing out, which a shocked Gon likens to steam from a kettle. They follow Wing's instructions and quickly learn to contain their aura via Ten, causing Wing to recognize their immense talent. He tests them by sending a wave of his Ren, and when they manage to walk against it, they return to the 200th floor to register. They make it across Hisoka's own Nen barrier. Gon confirms that he's come to the Heavens Arena to train to defeat the magician, who states he's not ready to face him yet. He agrees to duel Gon if he can win a match on the 200th floor. As he leaves, Gon and Killua are greeted by Realveld, Sadaso, and Guido. After the clerk excitedly explains to them the rules of that floor and above, their lack of response to her enthusiasm irritates her. Gon decides to register for a match right away. Gon warns him that the three fighters from before are trying to find out when he wants to fight, and he lets them choose. The pair walk to their rooms where they find out Gon will fight the following day, March 11th. Gon is thrilled at the prospect of fighting, and although he doesn't expect to win, he's ecstatic he can train his new power. The following afternoon, he faces off against Guido, who surrounds him with spinning tops enhanced with aura. They bounce off against one another and hit him in the back, which to the boy feels as though someone had struck him with a sledgehammer. After taking several hits, Gon closes his eyes and tries to sense them by their aura, but this causes his Ten to fade. Another top strikes him and he bounces off the ring. From a top that spins harmlessly next to him and the referee's unwillingness to step on the ring, Gon deduces the tops aren't targeting him specifically, but like sumo tops, simply ram into anything nearby. He rushes Guido and attempts to kick him, but his opponent starts spinning and sends him crashing into a wall. 1 point short of losing, Gon goes over his options. He decides to deactivate Ten and focus his senses on the tops completely, ignoring Killua's protests. Without his awareness, he has entered a state of Zetsu, one of the 4 major principles he naturally learned during the 4th phase of the Hunter exam. With his eyes closed, he finally manages to avoid the tops. Gon keeps it up for over an hour, even when the ring is filled with 50 tops. At one point, however, he finds himself completely surrounded. A single top hits him, breaking his arm and a few ribs. Even in those dire circumstances, he feels electrified from the risk. Back in his room, he apologizes to Killua, who scolds him for his carelessness, and to Wing. The teacher slaps him, appalled by his actions, but ultimately relieved he survived. Gon apologizes again, but Wing forbids him to study Nen or fight for 2 months, the supposed time of his convalescence, which Killua halved. Gon promises to respect his prohibition and ties a string around his little finger. When Killua and Wing leave the room, Gon performs the 10 of the Flame, meditating on Jin's abandonment and Kite's revelation that he's still alive. 1 month later, Gon has already made a full recovery, much to Killua's astonishment. Killua shows him the tickets for one of Hisoka's matches. He reveals to Gon that he's never lost whenever he fought, that he only ever lost 4 points, and that he's considered to be on par with the Floor Masters. Gon proclaims he's worried, but his expression betrays his excitement. Just as he wonders if Wing will let him spectate the match, the teacher appears behind him, forbidding him to go. To himself, he notes that the 10 of the Flame has made Gon's and Killua's auras flow tranquil and smooth. Killua laments wasting his money on Gon's ticket, causing the boy to silently remark he's a millionaire. Back in his room, Gon, swallowing the temptation, turns off the TV. At the end of the month, Wing allows Gon and Killua to train along with Zushi. Gon admits that it was hard to keep his promise, but looking at the string calmed him. He's taken aback by the teacher's joke that it was due to his Nen. Asked to use Ten, Gon worries that he may have forgotten how. His fear, however, is unfounded as his flow is smoother and more powerful than before, which is due to his meditation exercises. Looking at the string, he notices it's broken and that there are markings on it. Wing authorizes Gon to watch the tape of Hisoka's match. The three students are unable to see the strands of aura attached to his arm. Wing instructs Gon and Killua to practice their Ren until they can see through Hisoka's In and has Zushi demonstrate Gyo, whose power impresses Gon. Wing tells Gon and Killua to register for a fight on the last available day so they can practice Gyo. On their way to their rooms, the three disciples feel Gido's, Ryovelt's, and Sadaso's aura. The three insist on fighting them to score easy victories. When Sadaso demonstrates his Nen ability, Gon tells him he cannot fight before June 10th. When Sadaso objects that his own deadline is May 29th, Killua retorts that they don't care and the three leave, but not before Sadaso ominously assures Gon the two of them will fight. They train their Ren in Killua's room, with Gon commenting his and Killua's are not as powerful as Zushi's. Later that evening, Gido blackmails Gon into fighting them by telling him that they have kidnapped Zushi, leaving one of the boys' shoes in front of his door as proof. Gon registers for the fights. The following day, he manages to see Hisoka's aura, but fails to figure out its properties. From Killua's request to fight on May 29th, Gon surmises he was blackmailed too. After the lecture, he states he doesn't mind losing on purpose but is concerned the rookie crushers may threaten Zushi again. Killua tells him not to worry. He scares Sadaso into withdrawing, giving Gon and himself one win by default, and Gido and Ryoveldt into playing by the rules. Training resumes as normal until the day of the match when Gon tells Wing he intends to use his fishing rod. He charges at Gido as soon as the match begins, but his opponent starts spinning right off the bat. He launches his tops at Gon with Shotgun Blues, who, to inflict greater psychological damage, obliterates them with Ren instead of swatting them down. He tries to hook Gido with a fishing rod and, when this fails, flips over the floor tile he's spinning on. Gon is immediately on Gido and snaps his peg leg with a punch, admonishing his opponent that the next time he threatens Zushi, he'll hit him in the face. Gon is declared the victor of the match. He later congratulates Killua on his victory against Ryoveldt, stating that he came up with a plan to counter the electrical whips. He faces off against Ryoveldt bare-handed, who pulls out his whips from the start. Gon hurls a floor tile at him, leaving him a way out so he can jump him right after he propels himself with Aura Burst. He breaks both of his wrists and ties the two whips around his opponent's neck, then pretends to turn them up to max and switch them on. Ryoveldt faints from fright. As Gon walks out of the arena victorious, Hisoka tells him to choose the date and place of their duel. Wing introduces his three students to Hatsu. Through water divination, Gon is revealed to be an enhancer. He phones Hisoka and they schedule their fight for July 10th at the Heavens Arena. After 1 month of practicing Hatsu, Gon's improvement is such that Wing asserts he passed the Secret Hunter exam, which requires Hunter to know Nen. Gon inquires about the progress of the examinees who passed along with him, and Wing tells him. On the day of the match, Gon fearlessly rushes at Hisoka, who, however, repels all his attacks without moving from his spot. He loses 1 point to Hisoka's feint, which prompts him to flip a floor tile in front of Hisoka and shatter it with a kick, sending the pieces flying at him. While Hisoka deflects them, Gon slips in his blind spot and punches him in the face, earning 2 points. The two contenders pause long enough for Gon to return Hisoka his badge. As they take their stances again, Hisoka asks Gon how much he learned about Nen. He deduces that Gon is an enhancer and details his personality test, which Gon finds accurate. The magician dashes at him and pummels him one-sidedly, with Gon's eyes managing to keep track of him, but his body failing to react in time. He keeps his distance while trying to come up with a plan until he uses Gyo and sees that Hisoka has attached his bungee gum to his cheek. The magician pulls him within range and lands a heavy punch on him. The score being 6-2 for Hisoka, Gon stands up with some difficulty. Hisoka offers to let him get a free hit if he can tell him when he attached his bungee gum, giving him 3 options. Gon goes with the third, only to feel cheated when Hisoka reveals it was the 4th one during the earlier explanation of the personality test. Gon regrets not using Gyo earlier, but Hisoka makes him understand he had no way of avoiding his ability. Since he can't keep his distance, Gon runs towards Hisoka. His courage, determination, and initiative cause Hisoka to unleash his lustful killing intent. Shivering but pushing through it, Gon strikes him repeatedly while Hisoka struggles to prevent himself from killing him until he's yanked towards Hisoka's fist again. He manages to block the second punch, but the referee counts it as a critical hit. Gon complains to no avail. Hisoka warns him he'll attack from the right. As the boy turns, he contracts the bungee gum he attached to a piece of stone while Gon was complaining, hitting him on his left cheek. Hisoka wins by TKO and says that the next time the two fight, their match will be to the death. Acknowledging he's still much weaker than the magician, Gon resolves to become stronger. Having reached their goals, Gon and Killua leave the Heavens Arena and head for Whale Island. Yorknew City Arc. Gon and Killua's arrival takes Mito by surprise, and she rapidly takes charge. As they eat, Gon tells her all about the exam and panics when she tries to break his hunter license. He then takes Killua around the island, discovering that his fox bear friend left him a fish as a welcome home present. While they gaze at the stars, Gon tells Killua he was his first friend and invites him to travel together until he finds a goal. When Killua asks him about his mother, Gon replies his real mother is Mito. They go back to prepare for the night, and Mito gives Gon a box left by Jin. She tells him about her childhood with Jin, whom Gon decides to call by name. The next day, Gon and Killua try to open the box. Force doesn't work, but as soon as Gon, at Killua's suggestion, uses Nen, the box breaks open, revealing markings similar to those on the promise string Wing gave him. Inside is another box, which Gon opens with his license. They find a cassette, a ring with the same markings, and a memory card. They decide to listen to the cassette first, from which Jin's voice comes out, asking Gon if he wants to see him. Jin, however, states he's ashamed to face Gon, having abandoned him for his own sake, and urges him to find him. Gon stops the cassette before Jin can tell him anything about his mother, believing it would give him no hints and reaffirming that his only mother is Mito. Despite his and Killua's best efforts, the message on the cassette is erased with Nen left by Jin. Killua speculates it's so they cannot use his voice to track him down. They examine the memory card, which Killua recognizes as belonging to a Joy Station game, Greed Island. Not having ever played video games before, Gon is dependent on Killua for assistance. The game turns out to be extremely rare, insanely expensive, and for hunters only. They realize their combined funds are nowhere near enough to buy a copy, and they can't trust online announcements. Killua asks his brother Miluki for help, whom Gon initially believes to be Illumi. In exchange for the memory card, they learn that clues can be found on the Hunter website and that multiple copies of the game will be auctioned in Yorknew. Killua stops Gon before he can access the site from his home computer. The two head to a bar where they log in to the Hunter website. After paying a fee, they learn the game was made by Nen users for Nen users, who are transported elsewhere when they start playing, and that 14 copies of the game will be auctioned in Yorknew. The starting price is even higher than what they previously read, so Gon suggests attending the auction as sellers. They try to raise money to buy precious loot, but disagreements lead them to turn it into a competition. By August 31st, Gon had raised more money than Killua. They head to Yorknew, where after wandering the markets for a while, Gon and Killua meet Leorio, who haggles to buy them phones. He inquires if they have already learned Nen, claiming he has. On September 1st, unable to even afford the entrance fee to the auction house, Gon and Leorio look online for answers. Leorio comes up with an idea. Have people pay to challenge Gon in arm wrestling so they can win a diamond as a prize. Gon easily defeats several of them until Shizuku competes. Albeit with extreme difficulty, he manages to win. Dumbfounded, Gon and Killua wonder about her identity. The following day, Gon defeats a few more challengers, but their number has already decreased as rumors spread, even though he's still far from acquiring the necessary sum. Impressed with the rumors, people from the underworld approach them. Due to Gon's arm being too short, Leorio competes in his place and defeats the opponent. They're sent to a conditional auction where the money is offered in return for capturing members of a group of thieves, which Killua realizes to be the Phantom Troop. Gon calls Kurapika, who's late to their meeting, but the latter doesn't pick up. Despite Killua warning him of the strength of the gang, Gon decides to hunt them. The three split up but fail to spot any spider. Killua believes Kurapika doesn't want their help. Gon asserts that he'll help them when they really need it, and he'll call them when he needs them. Gon comes up with the idea of offering a sizable reward in return for the information about the spider's hideout, stating that if they can capture even one of them, the others will follow. He pawns his license to raise the necessary amount. On September 3rd, the three head to the Southern Peace auction house to buy its catalog as well as an admission ticket. They post an ad online offering $15 million as a reward for information on the spiders, taking care to avoid false and incorrect reports. On their way to the hotel, they walk through a silent auction where Gon spots a valuable knife with Gyo. Realizing other geniuses may have left their aura in their masterpieces, the two boys begin to look for any such items. They soon discover that someone else is using a similar method to them. They manage to secure 3 items, losing one to him. They take them to the Southern Peace auction house, but they're told the catalogs of all auction houses in the city are likely to be done for the year. They're recommended to sell them in a dealer's market, so they try to find out the item's actual worth. The specialist they turn to is sincere in his appraisal of the lithograph and the handmade doll, but lies about the worth of the wooden statue. Zepal prevents Gon and Killua from being swindled, claiming the statue is likely a vault for treasure. In return for his help, they treat him to lunch. They start to exchange information by asking one question each, with Gon and Killua explaining they only picked objects that had an aura around them, and that Gon wants to get a copy of Greed Island because it might contain clues as to where he can find his father. Zepile reveals he made the vase the two boys were bidding on when he was working as a counterfeiter, and impressed with them and smitten with Gon complimenting his craftsmanship skills, offers them his services. He opens the wooden vault and the three take the treasure to an auction preview, where in order to lower the price, some interested parties list ways in which the contents of the vault may have been forged. Despite Zepile's intervention, customers hesitate. Curious, Gon asks what doctoring methods exist, and he explains cauterization, autopsy, and ostomy. They're contacted by Leorio, who has received a real tip on the spiders. Gon and Killua run off, leaving Zepile in charge of the auction. They meet with Leorio and the three head to the bar where Nobunaga and Machi were spotted. Killua determines they're too powerful for them to take on and realizes they want to lure someone out. The increase in tension between the spiders causes Gon, Killua, and Leorio to tense up. When the two prepare to leave, Gon insists on carrying on with the plan. Killua agrees to track them with Zetsu on the condition they fall back at the first sign of danger. He asks Gon if he has any shadowing experience, and he replies he followed Hisoka during the hunter exam, which earns him a punch from Killua. Although the two spiders can sense them, they can't determine their position. When the two stop in the middle of a courtyard, Gon and Killua hide in the adjoining abandoned building. When Nobunaga glances in Killua's direction, the two attempt to escape, but find two other spiders blocking their way. Gon runs into Pakunoda before Machi jumps into the room through the window. The two spiders ask him if he knows the chain dude, or chain guy, whom Gon does not recognize as Kurapika. When Pakunoda's phone rings, he tries to bolt away but is promptly stopped by Machi. Pakunoda tells them that Killua surrendered and the two are taken to the spider's hideout where Gon spots Hisoka. Killua manages to pass off his surprised reaction as being aimed at Shizuku, whom arm wrestled him for the diamond. Impressed that Gon defeated her, Nobunaga challenges him at the same game. He effortlessly beats him several times, but when he begins to cry while talking about Uvogin, Gon snaps and activates his Nen, furious that the spiders don't extend their feelings to the people they kill, and defeats him. Phaeton restrains the defiant boy but is prevented from torturing him by Nobunaga, who invites Gon to join the fandom troop. The boy refuses. Although the other spiders are favorable to letting them go, Nobunaga decides to keep them around until Chrollo's return to nominate Gon as Uvogin's replacement. Gon and Killua are locked in a room, with Nobunaga guarding the only entrance. Gon stops Killua when his friend offers to lay down his life so Gon can escape. The two bicker until Gon remembers the third doctoring trick, ostomy. They prepare for combat, but instead of engaging Nobunaga, they each kick a hole in a lateral wall. Gon keeps smashing them until he manages to trick Nobunaga and get out in the hallway, from where he calls out to Killua so the two of them together can defeat Nobunaga. Killua, however, convinces him to use Zetsu and escape, since they have no way of beating him. As they run away, Gon is relieved that Killua has gone back to his careful self. He's surprised to hear that the chain dude is probably Kurapika, and decides to contact him to refine his Nen and defeat the spiders. Kurapika is initially reticent to help them, but when Gon relays his shock at seeing Nobunaga cry, he promises to call them back. Gon and Killua go back to their place where they find Leorio and Zepile drinking. They tell them about the capture and Kurapika's actions. Not much later, Gon receives a call from Kurapika, who tells him the spiders are dead. The following day, Gon and Killua have an ice cream eating contest while waiting for Kurapika. When he arrives, Gon happily tells him he can finally focus on retrieving the eyes of his brethren, before being sucked into a fight with Killua. After selling the wooden vault, Leorio reaches them. Gon and Leorio question him about Nen, and Kurapika explains he used the vow and a limitation to restrict his target to the Phantom Troop alone lest he dies. Killua, fearing the surviving spiders might learn of Kurapika's identity and restriction through Pakunoda, insists on going after them. Just as they agree to remove her, Hisoka texts Kurapika the spiders' corpses were fake. Gon convinces Killua to keep hunting the Phantom Troop even if the Mafia canceled the reward, saying he has a plan for Greed Island. Gon's determination sways Kurapika, who accepts his friend's help. He plans to chain Pakunoda and take her away by car, for which he will need Gon to distract the spiders for, ideally, 1 whole second. Thinking back about how Machi stopped him, he wonders if he can do it. He then asks Kurapika to use Judgment Chain on him. Kurapika explains his abilities to him out of appreciation for his dedication, but refuses to use Judgment Chain on any of them. Gon states the pressure of letting down a friend is worse than risking his life. While Killua tails 6 of them, Gon is in a car with Kurapika and Leorio. He's told that Pakunoda is in the group as well as Nobunaga. They wait for them at the station, but before Gon can divert their attention, the spiders start running toward the Hotel Beitical. Gon and Kurapika chase after them but are sensed by Chrollo, who stops with Machi and Shizuku. The pursuers hide in time to avoid recognition. Seeing Killua behind Kurapika, Gon comes out to prevent them from fighting Kurapika, with Killua playing the part of the second pursuer. pretending not to know the Mafia had cancelled the reward. They're restrained by Machi and taken to the hotel, but not before Gon calmly asks Frollo how he can kill people with no connection to him, only to receive an incomprehensible reply. Gon worries that although he has told Kurapika his planned distraction, he will be unable to go through with it since he doesn't know when Gon will act and where he and Killua are being taken. While he tries to think of a way to communicate with him, he sees Leorio, who tells him the planned time through a coded message by passing himself off as someone yelling at his underling on the phone. 3 minutes before execution, Nobunaga, Pakunoda, and Kortopi arrive at the hotel. Following Killua's example, Gon closes his eyes and tries to stall Pakunoda. She manages to read their memories 1 instant before the lights go off. Gon kicks Pakunoda but fails to free himself and is subsequently caught by Nobunaga. When the lights return, the spiders find out that Chrollo's missing. Kurapika leaves them a message warning Pakunoda not to share what she discovered. Gon and Killua are taken to the Phantom Troop's hideout and chained. When Finks and Phaeton nearly fight Machi, Kortopi, and Pakunoda, Gon declares that they're following Kurapika's instructions only because they want Chrollo back. Finks' accusation that he's lying to be saved enrages Gon, who breaks free from his restraints. He states Kurapika would not violate the terms he set out of anger. Pakunoda is allowed to take Gon and Killua to Lingen Airport. On the way there, Pakunoda asks them why they don't run away from her, since she's injured, but Gon replies that they don't want Kurapika to become a murderer. When they're about to board a blimp, Hisaka appears and threatens to kill Gon and Killua if he doesn't get to fight Chrollo. Kurapika allows him to get on board as well, and the hostage exchange is carried out. As they head back, Gon is saddened to hear that Kurapika's quest against the Phantom Troop is not over yet. Greed Island Arc. On September 6th, Gon hopes Kurapika's fever won't go down for a while, so that he won't go after the remaining spiders. Unlike Killua, he's convinced that revenge is no longer Kurapika's objective. He tells his friend his plan to be hired by Batara as players instead of trying to purchase the game, which Killua reckons to be likely to succeed. They head to the Southern Peace auction house where they meet Finks and Phaeton. Finks cuts the retreat and announces that they're not pursuing Kurapika since his nen may become stronger after his death and become too much for Chrollo to bear. Gon inquires about Pakunoda, learning to his displeasure she has died. Finks tells him she was thankful to him and Killua. When the auction begins, Gon discovers the cartridges were sold not by Jin, but by a hunter named Jade Sari. He accidentally doubles a bid on the game, but luckily Batara outbids him. Gon and Killua later approach him, claiming to be hunters and offering to play the game for him. They're initially not believed, but Batara agrees to have Tsezgera assess them informally when Gon reveals he owns a save file of the game and the ring. At Tsezgera's request, the boys perform Ren, however the prowess is deemed insufficient. Gon lashes at Tsezgera and the two vow to pass his tryouts on September 10th. Instead of working on their 10 in Ren, as usual, Killua suggests using the 4 days at their disposal to create a Nen ability. Gon, however, doesn't know where to begin. When Kurapika recovers, he tries to convince him to stay in Yorknew a while longer, to no avail. He asks him to be his teacher, but Kurapika declines and recommends Gon call his master. Wing insists that Gon not to create a slapdash ability, but that he shows Tsezgera every technique he has learned at the same time. The apparent irreconcilability of Raden and Zetz has him despair at first until he remembers he can use Gyo to focus his aura in one spot and shut it off everywhere else. Gon practices a sequence of 10, Gyo, and Zetz to concentrate all his aura in his fist before increasing it with Ren. While he trains, Zepile raises enough money for him to buy back his license. On the day of the interviews, Gon waits calmly in his seat until his turn. He passes after Killua, showing Tsezgera his ko and hitting the wall with it at his request. Both boys pass the selection and, after having Leorio look at the contract, ride a train to Batara's castle. The newly hired players have a rock-paper-scissors tournament to decide the order of entrance, and Gon goes first, accessing the game with the save file left by Jin. He meets Eta, a player who plays a message left by Jin for him saying the game contains no clues and that he simply wanted to show it to him. She then explains the mechanics of the game to him. As soon as he walks out of the starting point, he feels eyes on himself. He anxiously waits for Killua while the other players recently hired by Batara arrive one by one. When Killua enters the game, they play rock, paper, scissors to decide which direction to go, and Gon wins. They begin to wander around in the prairie until they're approached by Latarza. He easily understands that they're new players and casts Trace on Killua before retreating upon feeling the boy's bloodlust. They head to the closest city, Antokiba, while wondering about the spell cast on Killua, which the latter determines to be magic from the game. They familiarize themselves with the monthly contests held in the city, the card conversion system, and the currency used in the game, the latter piece of knowledge being acquired at the cost of working in a restaurant for a few hours after eating a meal without knowing Jenny or not accepted method of payment. Hearing a commotion, they run towards it and find Jeet dead, his midsection having blown up from the inside. The two boys become fearful that the spell cast on Killua might have a similar effect, but Nyx assures them that there's no such spell on the island and that the culprit is another player. He invites them to join his alliance, claiming to have a surefire, non-violent method to clear the game. Gon and Killua are initially suspicious but accept to follow him when he gives them information about spells and teaches them to summon their binders when other players target them. Other recruits are present at the meeting, such as Bisky, Abengane, and Puhat. Ganthru explains that there's no spells that can harm players in the game, and that the ones cast on the recruits are meant to gather information. He claims Jeet was killed by a ruthless player known as the Bomber. Gon, Abengane, and Killua then guess the 3 different methods to gather cards. Nyx incites them to join him so they can put an end to the violence of the game. Gon apologizes to Killua and refuses the offer, bothered by the way Nyx talks about Jean's creation. He confesses that he's upset that players would go to such lengths to acquire cards. He resolves to follow his father's advice and enjoy the game, telling Killua how happy he is that they're together. Unbeknownst to them, Bisky is spying on them, keen on ruining their friendship. Gon then teaches Killua his trick to win at rock, paper, scissors, which was taught to him by a fisherman and consists in carefully looking at the opponent's fist right before the throw. Both make it to the finals of the monthly tournament, the contest being rock, paper, scissors. Killua defeats Gon by switching hands at the last second and obtains their first specified slot card, Sword of Truth. They come up with a few methods to defend their prize without spells. They notice that they're being followed, but the tactics manage to thwart the attempts of the first 2 players who try to take their Sword of Truth, with Gon taking the spell card from a 3rd player's hand before he can cast it. In the end, however, they're surrounded by a group of competent players and lose the card. They decide to go to Masadora to get spells. They exchange their cards for money and buy a sketch map of the island. They're excited to learn that monsters and bandits lurk on the way to Masadora. Before they leave, Bisky begs them to let her join them. Despite their speed, Bisky manages to keep up with them. At one point, they seem to be ambushed by bandits, who however implore them to give them money to purchase medicine to fight off a deadly epidemic. Gon and Killua give them almost everything they have, but surprisingly get nothing in return. As soon as they leave the forest and head into the Badlands, they're attacked by Cyclops. Gon's punch has no effect on them, but they manage to easily defeat the whole group when Killua discovers their eye is their weakness. They're forced to flee when spotted by a melanine lizard. They waste 10 minutes trying unsuccessfully to catch a hyper puffball and later a bubble horse. They repeatedly fail to beat different Greed Island monsters until they see a suit of armor walking towards them. Bisky impatiently tells them to use Gyo, which allows them to find the radio rat controlling it and turn it into a card. Bisky proclaims herself their new Nen instructor. After introducing herself, she reveals she used to be Wing's teacher and shows the 2 boys she's defeated the monsters they struggled against, claiming there's plenty of players who could kill them. She then senses Binalt's bloodlust and pretends to fight with them to make him target her when she goes off by herself. After taking a detour, Gon and Killua reach her in time to see her effortlessly defeat her opponent. Gon asks her why she came to Greed Island, and after stating she wants to obtain a blue planet, she returns the question. Gon is surprised to discover she has heard of his father, whom Netero claims to be one of the best Nen users in the world. As their first training exercise, she has Gon and Killua fight Binalt for 2 weeks inside a rocky arena. They're unable to approach him until Gon, taking a cue from Killua, strikes the wall with Ko and uses a boulder as a shield. Half a day later, they have him surrounded with rocks, blocking his field of vision. Gon creates a diversion, allowing Killua to pin him to the ground, but Gon stops him and insists on training for the whole 2 weeks until they can take him one-on-one. He allows Binalt to rest, awakening when he tries to use Zetz. By the 10th day, both he and Killua become strong enough to defeat him. He acknowledges it, but Gon thanks him for his help. As he hoped, Binalt promises to leave the island and turn himself in. Grinding the progress of the game to a screeching halt, Bisky Kruger focuses on training the 2 boys physically and in Nen. She starts by having them run to Masadora in 3 hours and back in 2.5, both trips leaving Gon winded. Instead of buying spells, she acquires 2 shovels and a wheelbarrow, ordering her students to dig their way to Masadora. The training is exhausting, and to top it off, Bisky has them sleep while keeping a part of their brain vigilant, which severely cuts on Gon's sleep. After a couple of days, Gon comes up with the idea of unfolding the shovel with his aura. This allows them to progress much more rapidly, but also to tire out more quickly. They steadily improve and finally make it to Masadora, only to return to the Badlands once again. Bisky has them face off against all the monsters in the region, with Gon falling 2 weeks behind Killua while trying to catch the bubble horse. Bisky then introduces them to Ko, which Gon recognizes as his special attack. She tells them the best defense against it is Ken, a prolonged state of Ren. She nudges Gon with her Ko-covered fist, knocking him back and causing him to bleed, leading them to realize the power of the technique. She tries again, this time waiting for Gon to exhaust his aura, which occurs in about 2 minutes. After 1 month of Shu and Ken training, Gon becomes capable of holding Ken for 30 minutes. Her next teaching is Ryu, the instantaneous redistribution of aura through Gyo for combat purposes, and has them hone it by sparring together. They start off slowly but become capable of performing Ryu at combat speed in only 2 weeks. She thus introduces them to training by Nen type. After learning the origins of the game Rock Paper Scissors, Gon bases his Nen ability on it. His enhancement attack Rock is successful, but he's unable to emit his aura for Paper. He decides to make Scissors a transmutation technique and to chant while charging up his attacks. Discovering it's almost New Year's Eve, Gon reminds Killua of the approaching deadline for the Hunter exam. They head to Masadora to learn how to leave the island, and after defeating a wolf pack and the harbor master, Killua leaves the island. Gon recommends him to ask the Kiriko to take him to the exam site. While Killua is gone, Gon continues his training. Shortly after the separation, he and Bisky are approached by Abengane, who tells them that Genthru is the bomber and about the fate of the Alliance, asking them to avenge him and prevent Genthru from clearing the game. After he leaves, Gon asks Bisky how long it'll take for him to master his Nen ability. She replies years will be necessary, but he's not that far from achieving what he envisions. He considers going to the Alliance's hideout. Bisky reflects it's unlikely they can help him, but thinks their hideout might contain useful clues if they were to meet the bomber later on. They head to Masadora and buy spells, deducing from the new shipment that the Alliance members are dead. They find the rare fortress and agonizing over what to do with it, with Gon wishing Killua was with him. Gon continues practicing a mission and Ryu, improving at an even pace. Gon and Bisky welcome Killua back when he returns, having passed the Hunter exam. They have him take charge of the card distribution. To get used to casting spells, he has Gon try Contact. They're shocked to see the name Crollo Lucifer in his binder. They disclose to Bisky their history with Kurapika and the Phantom Troop, who in turn tells them about exorcism. Killua briefly leaves the game to phone Kurapika and returns telling Gon their friend was not fazed by the news and that the player is not the real Crollo. At Bisky's invitation, Gon shows Killua the prototypes for Paper and Scissor. The two squabble over Gon's decision to chant while preparing the moves, which Bisky approved of because to him it felt natural. The three finally start playing the game for real, with Gon using Rock to obtain 3 King White Stag Beetles, which however they're unable to monopolize. They acquire 1 Gold Dust Girl each and 1 Paladin's Necklace from the monthly tournament in Antokiba, which they duplicate before converting it so Gon can wear it. On the way to Dorias, they collect Witch's Love Potion, Risky Dice, and Memory Helmet. Kazul, who took Sword of Truth from them, contacts them for a trade. They exchange 1 Witch's Love Potion for 1 Book of VIP passes. Killua wins a Rainbow Diamond and a fledgling gambler with the help of Risky Dice until Bisky is forced to knock him out to halt his budding gambling addiction. By facing all manners of trials over the course of 1 month, they gather 50 specified slot cards in total, among which are Fledgling CEO, Doyen's Growth Pills, and Staff of Judgment. Gon is surprised that they managed to convert so many rare items into cards, which leads Killua to conclude there aren't many competitive teams. Gon's words inspired Killua into getting into the business of trading leave cards to weak players in return for rare cards, raising their total number to 57 and later to 61, 51 without duplicates. They resolve to keep looking for cards on their own while also trading players they encounter for them and information. Thanks to the Paladin's Necklace, Gon discovers a fake favor cushion and receives the real one. This leads him to wonder if he can cure the villagers they donated their belongings to. Their charity causes the villagers to trust them, and the necklace heals them. In return, the villagers give them a Wild Luck Alexandrite. Kazul contacts them again, offering to form an alliance since Genthru is close to completing the game. By giving the group information about Genthru's ability, they obtain 2 rare cards. Gon's willingness to cooperate also earns them a lot of crucial information. The alliance decides to monopolize one of the 4 cards Genthru's team lacks, and settle on number 2, which no player has yet, which they discover to be in Sofrabi. An NPC offers to point them to Plotive Beach if they drive Razor and his 14 devils out of the town. The Alliance heads to a bar where they find 4 pirates. When they ask them to leave, Bopobo challenges them to push him out of the flaming ring. Zeho goes first, but he's easily subdued. The pirate holds him over the fire, so Gon kicks him to force him to let go. Killua stops Gon before he can use Rock and take Bopobo by himself. He wins the confrontation, so the Alliance members are taken to the lighthouse-turned-gym where Razor and the other pirates each challenge an opponent to a sport. The first discipline is boxing, and the pirate in charge of it defeats Montru with only Gon, Killua, and Bisky comprehending how he did it. Realizing their allies are too weak to be of use, Gon's team throws their matches while gathering as much information on the contests as possible. The Alliance eventually loses and disbands, surmising the bombers will not be able to form the necessary group of 15 to win the card. Gon, Killua, Bisky, and Gorainu, however, decide to try again after finding more powerful allies. The four brainstorm to find potential teammates in their contacts, with Gon considering Binolt, who however is either dead or has left the game. He then proposes finding out who Chrollo is, since an alias would not make sense if it were simply a spider seeking to clear the game, which they determine not to be the case. Despite Killua's objections, Gon insists on finding out who it is. They teleport to him and find out Chrollo is Hisoka, who tells them he's looking for Chrollo inside the game. Bisky invites him to join their alliance to defeat Razor while discreetly informing the others he's lying. He takes them to Ai, his constant leering disquieting Gon and Killua. After falling for one of the city's cliché romantic incidents, Gon proposes enlisting Sesgeta's help even if he sees he's close to completing the game. He asks Hisoka to check his binder to see if he has him among his contacts, which he does. Gorino negotiates for them and Sesgeta accepts. Killua wants to test him first. He and Gon are impressed with his jumping ability and copy, shattering his record on the first try. Gon challenges Killua multiple times but keeps losing. Their alliance now counting 9 members, they each choose a sport that fits their abilities. Gon initially planned to do boxing, but when Barry volunteers instead, he's assigned to volleyball with Sesgeta. After a week of training, they head to the lighthouse, having recruited 6 more players to reach the necessary number. Barry, Kess, and Rod Riot best their opponents, after which Razor plans to enter the game himself. Bopobo incites a revolt but is killed by Razor. He then challenges them to a game of dodgeball with the aid of his 7 Nen Beasts. This proves problematic for the Alliance since the weaker players refuse to participate. Still believing him to be an NPC, Gon asks Razor what Bopobo did to deserve to die, and is shocked to learn that he was a death row convict, and that Greed Island takes place in the real world. He thus inquires if Jin is on the island, which causes Razor to recognize Gon as his son and to go all out, as requested to him by his father. Gorino uses his own ability, so they have 8 players and the match begins. The Alliance takes out 2 of Razor's Nen Beasts before he strikes back. Gon and Killua manage to follow his lightning-fast passages and warn Sesgeta, who reacts to the throw in time to survive, although he's eliminated. Gon tells Hisoka to use bungee gum on the ball so they can keep throwing. However, Razor's team eventually retrieves it. He aims a throw at Gon, who protects himself with Ko. However, since he neglected to reinforce his legs, he's thrown into a wall and eliminated. Eager to catch Razor's next throw, Gon declares he will be the one to call back. Killua convinces him to wait until only 2 players on the team are left. When Bisky is eliminated, Gon moves back on the court, brimming with such determination and anger that he manages to persuade Killua he must catch Razor's throw to really win. He has Killua hold the ball and begins to charge Rock. He manages to eliminate Razor's strongest Nen Beast, but is still unsatisfied, as he would need more power to take out Razor. He builds up aura again before unleashing an even more powerful punch. However, Razor kills the momentum of the ball with a bump, awing Gon. Hisoka catches the ball with bungee gum, forcing Razor to use his freebie. Sesgeta requests a timeout and offers to hold the ball for Gon, knowing that Killua's hands were mangled by the previous throws. Gon, however, replies that he can, but needs Killua to give it his best. He comes up with a formation to recover the ball from Razor. With it, they manage to block his tremendously powerful spike. Gon then builds up even more aura than before in preparation for his attack. Razor deflects the ball back at him, confident he won't dodge. However, having used up all his aura, Gon passes out, and the ball flies harmlessly over him. To honor his wish of a crushing victory, Hisoka uses bungee gum to send the ball back at Razor and stick it to his hands until he's pushed out of the court. Gon recovers moments after their victory, and Razor offers to tell him all he knows about Jin. He tells the boys Jin is not on the island and shares the story about how he inspired him. The NPC who told them about Plata Beach leads them to the top of the lighthouse, and when the dawn rises, turns into the card while gazing out of the window. After Hisoka leaves, Gorino and Sesgeta content themselves with copies, believing Gon deserves the original. The two then suggest a partnership to defeat Genthru. Just then, Genthru contacts Sesgeta and reveals he's killed all the members of Kazuo's alliance. Furious, Gon challenges him to a fight, and Bisky only barely manages to prevent him from revealing he has the original plot of Beach, which Genthru believes to be in Sesgeta's possession. When the communication ends, Sesgeta scolds Gon for his impulsiveness. He offers to buy them 1 week to heal their wounds and come up with a plan for free, and 3 in exchange for Wild Luck Alexandrite. Bisky trains Gon to react with Go to Genthru's little flower and attempts to hone his emission skills enough to make them usable in combat. 10 days later, he's made no significant progress in the latter, and after 5 more days, Bisky and Killua give him another strategy to rely on and make him work on his timing until he can exactly tell when 1 minute has passed. 3 weeks and 5 days after Sesgeta began stalling the bombers, his team is forced to retreat out of the game. The bombers teleport to Gon's team, who pretend to be taken by surprise. They refuse to hand over their cards and flee to make the bombers use up their movement spells until they manage to lead them in a desired location. The three split up, with Sub targeting Killua and Bada going after Bisky, leaving Gon to face Genthru by himself. He counters his first offensive, which leads Genthru to realize he knows about his abilities. Before clashing again, he forces Genthru to agree that the winner will hand his cards over to the loser, declaring he would rather die than give his cards to a bandit. Gon is momentarily frightened by Genthru's superior aura output, and his attacks easily countered. However, Gon's pride as a warrior prohibits him from carrying out the plan until he manages to force Genthru to resort to Little Flower. Genthru lands some solid blows. Despite having the upper hand, Gon's stubbornness prompts him to use Little Flower to break his opponent's spirit. Genthru thus activates the ability from both hands. Ignoring Bisky and Killua's words of caution again, Gon resolves to try out a new tactic. When Genthru grabs his wrists, Gon focuses only 30% of his aura in his right hand and 70% in his foot, and kicks in exposed Genthru on the chin at the same time that he sets off Little Flower. Gon loses his left hand and even his right is gravely injured, but he manages to bear the pain well enough to charge Rock while Genthru's stunned. His enemy trips over a root, which allows him to dodge Gon's punch. Satisfied, the boy accepts to proceed with the plan. He pulls a card out of his binder, which the Paladin's necklace reverts to its true form, and warns Genthru he might die if he converts it. Genthru admits defeat and draws Gon close with a request. He swiftly crushes the boy's windpipe so he can't dispel the binder, and tries to knock him out, but Gon manages to counter the second strike. Enraged, he converts the card, soaking Genthru in gasoline to prevent him from using Little Flower. While Genthru explains Countdown to him so he can activate it as soon as he touches Gon, the boy pulls a second card out of the binder and strikes the ground with Rock, revealing a pitfall underneath. Both he and Genthru fall into it. Gon immediately jumps into a small side tunnel while the card reverts into a massive boulder that comes crashing down on Genthru. The bomber leaps into the tunnel only to find himself trapped by the boulder, and Gon charging Rock right in front of him. He tries to surrender, but Gon knocks him out. He contacts and meets up with Killua and Bisky, and together they restrain the three bombers and take their cards. Gon's injuries are healed with Angel's Breath. The trio also uses it on Genthru's teammates before it maxes out. They contact Goraino to receive more copies, who, however, is unwilling to waste the card on three murderers. Gon activates his last copy, which prompts Goraino to hand them his own, as well as all his and Sesgeta's team's cards. Gon, Killua, and Bisky also receive 1 billion each as a result of Batara rescinding the contract. Gon places all 99 specified slot cards in his binder. An announcement goes off that alerts every player of a quiz test, the prize being the elusive Ruler's Blessing. Multiple players teleport to the group's location, but only to offer them a deal. Gon gives the most exact responses and receives Ruler's invitation. Gashta and Zetsk Bellum attack him to get the card, but Gon's team easily defeats them. Killua drifts to Limero so Gon and Bisky can fly there too. Gon enters the castle where he's greeted by List, who takes him to Doon's dumpster of a room. The Game Master shares anecdotes of his past with Jin and gives Gon Ruler's Blessing, as well as the container in which to transport 3 cards to the outside world. He then asks the boy if he wants the generic ending or the special one just for him, and Gon goes with the former, unaware that there's no alternate ending. After a majestic party, Gon, Killua, and Bisky pick the 3 cards. The next morning, Gon presents them to Elena: Blue Planet, Paladin's Necklace, and Plot of Beach. When the trio leave the game, Gon converts Paladin's Necklace to revert Plot of Beach into a company, which he had previously transformed with Clone after finding out that the first contact on his list was not Goraino, the person to enter the game after him, but an anagram of Jin. He proclaims the first thing he'll do after meeting his father is introduce Killua as his best friend, to the latter's embarrassment and moving Bisky to tears. They greet her before casting a company, which takes Gon and Killua to Kite in Kakin. Chimera Ant Arc. Kite explains to Gon he's been on Greed Island on Jin's request, and that Gon's use of a company instead of magnetic force caused him to meet Kite and not Jin, who wanted to make sure Gon and him would be alone if they were to meet. They enjoy eating dinner while Kite tells Gon that he was finally able to find Jin, but Gon doesn't want him to say where he is. He explains his mission to do a biological survey and introduces them to his group. Alongside Kite's team, Gon and Killua work as biological researchers for 1 month, finding a great number of new species thanks to their affinity with nature. When they turn in the results to Wong, they're told about a giant insect limb. They fly to the Southern Peace auction house to investigate. The field research is unsuccessful, but Podungo discovers the limb came from a man-sized Chimera Ant queen, an insect that devours other animals and then gives birth to progeny that inherit the characteristic of the different species it's eaten. After researching the currents, Kite bets that the Chimera Ant Queen might have washed onto a narco-privativist autonomous nation called Neo Greenlife. Following his hunch, they head to NGL. Only Gon, Killua, Kite, Stick, and Podungo are able to cross the NGL border stop due to the country's strict rules. They rent horses and plan to search along the coastline. After receiving an SOS message from Ponzu containing the location of the nest, Kite, Gon, and Killua rush to help. They cross a deserted village. Gon finds animal carcasses impaled by Ramot, who beats them and Killua back. Kite tests them by making them fight the Chimera Ant. Gon and Killua tag team to beat him, and after Killua paralyzes him, Gon lands a near-fatal blow, but Ramot is saved by his squadron leader Colt. Kite warns the two boys they'll see carnage, but they're willing to continue nonetheless. The trio discovers the hidden side of NGL, a narcotics factory once commandeered by the former kingpin of the country, Gyro. Inside, they encounter Yunju and two of his lackeys. Despite Gon's protests, Yunju kills Spot and Rover before initiating hostilities. Gon faces off against his henchman Centipede. When his first punch is ineffective, he bisects the Chimera Ant with scissors. Kite finishes him off, warning Gon that he must destroy the head. The trio discuss the Nen abilities and advance further in Chimera Ant territory. They find themselves surrounded by the officers of Hagia's squad. The Ants insist on fighting one-on-one. Gon goes first, with Bado being his opponent. Although the officer states their fight is to the death, Gon declares himself willing to spare him if he can stop eating humans. The boy manages to dodge the first attack of the ant, but not the second, from which he still comes out mostly uninjured. Enraged by Bado's revelation that he kills humans for fun, Gon catches him as he rolls and crushes him to death. After Killua dispatches his opponent, Kite activates his crazy slots, summoning a scythe. Gon and Killua sense its power and jump up as he decimates the officers with silent waltz. Asked by Kite, Gon states that he doesn't sympathize with individuals with no sense of camaraderie. That night, the trio spots Hirin, Flutter, and Hagia, who, however, withdraw without a fight. When they're within sight of the nest, they're located by Neferpito, who's upon them in an instant and cuts off Kite's arm. Withstanding the shock of their ominous aura, Gon immediately rages and prepares for battle, but Killua knocks him unconscious to retreat whilst Kite holds the royal guard back by himself. Killua takes Gon back to the checkpoint where they crossed into the country. Reinforcements finally arrive in the form of Moro, Nav, and Hunter Association Chairman Netero. Hearing Gon try to fight with Pito, Moro compliments him. Netero posits a challenge to the boys for re-entry into NGL. Gon comes into a hotel and thanks Killua, confident that Kite is still alive. They resolve to become stronger to rescue him. They encounter Nav's eerie student Palm Siberia, who tells them they have 1 month to defeat Moral's two disciples Knucklebine and Shoot McMahon in battle. Each pair has 2 halves of the token, and to pass the challenge, the pair must acquire the opponent's 2 halves. Killua scouts Knuckle as he proclaims he's ready to fight with a megaphone, determining he's strong. Gon disagrees that they should find out his abilities before fighting him, since they'll have no such knowledge in NGL. When he claims they'll win in 1 week, he's punched by Bisky, whom Palm has called to their hotel to train them. She trains them to maintain a state of Ren for 3 hours, which will increase their stamina within battle. Less than 1 hour later, Gon collapses a few seconds before Killua, and they instantly fall asleep. Bisky uses her ability to reduce their fatigue. Gon's confidence causes Palm to become infatuated with him. After about 10 days, Gon and Killua succeed in the task. Despite their exhaustion, Bisky sends them to confront Knuckle without their tokens, so they'll be able to fight him again if they lose. The Beast Hunter's superiority is clear to all 3 of them even before they clash. He orders them to punch him as much as they want, and if they fail to make him budge from his spot, they'll have to leave their tokens behind. His offer incenses Gon, who however accepts that his opponent is indeed more powerful. He steps forward to accept the match and starts off immediately with Rock. Upon contact, Knuckle loses consciousness and is taken back into the inn by Gon and Killua. He comes to while Gon and Killua are honing their Ren, surprised to find his half of the token still in his possession. Gon tells him what they seek is the strength to beat him in an honest battle. At Gon's request, Knuckle reveals he wants to join the extermination team so he can see in person if the Chimera Ants really deserve to be eliminated. He states Gon is a good person, a compliment that Gon reciprocates by pointing to the stray dog who has never left Knuckle's bedside. The next morning, the 3 share breakfast and Knuckle allows Gon and Killua to challenge him as many times as they want in the remaining 20 days. The boys spend the rest of the month training themselves by maintaining Ren for 3 hours and subsequently heading off to challenge Knuckle, but they can't draw so much as half of his might. 10 days before the deadline, Gon wonders why Knuckle is not allowed to go to NGL despite his power, with Killua speculating it's because of his personality. Palm realizes they're not progressing fast enough and recommends they run away so her anger will not be as terrible, but Gon promises they'll win and manages to calm her down. 2 nights before the deadline, Bisky allows Gon and Killua to challenge Knuckle after resting. Gon takes Knuckle on by himself while Killua watches from the sidelines. The fight begins and Gon uses his speed against Knuckle, who however proves faster and stronger, forcing Gon to keep Ken up at all times. Gon stuttering the first syllable causes him to mistake the name of his ability as Jajanken, which Gon is fine with. The Beast Hunter proceeds to inform Gon that his technique has 2 major weaknesses. First, it takes too long to charge. Second, the technique is too risky. The more aura concentrated on the fists, the less aura there is to protect the body. The two resume fighting with Gon's aura output increasing even further, but Knuckle easily bats him back by reading its flow. Gon fires paper at Knuckles, and through round 2, he swiftly prepares rock while moving behind him for a pincer attack. However, he exhausts his aura before being able to land a decisive blow. After being carried to the hotel by Killua and massaged by Bisky, Gon wakes up full of energy and is surprised by the bruises on his friend's face. The two head off to fight Knuckle and Shoot, with Gon facing off against the former. Knuckle starts off at full power and Gon expands his aura to sense his movements, although he fails to dodge his punch, which leaves him unscathed. And indeed brimming with energy. APR appears next to him. Knuckle explains the mechanics of his Hakawari ability and calculates the extent of Gon's aura reserves. Gon infers that the Beast Hunter didn't use his ability before so he could keep training. The two exchange blows, loaning aura to each other, until Gon goes bankrupt and is forced into a state of Zets for 1 month by IRS, spelling his defeat. The next day, Gon and Killua accompany the victorious duo to the NGL border, where Knuckles swears to Gon he will bring Kite back. After they leave, Gon weeps over his weakness. On the drive back, he finds his resolve again, vowing to become stronger not to disappoint Kite when Knuckle brings him back. Spinner tells him about her and Kite's past. Palm is furious with Killua and him, and demands that he go out with her to make it up. He accepts and manages to calm her down, which, while training with Killua, is due to the experience with older women gleaned on Whale Island. Knuckle phones Gon and informs him Kite is still alive, although he's being manipulated by the enemy. Gon sets up a romantic date for Palm, but confesses he would prefer to keep training to fight Kite's controller. This doesn't sit well with Palm, who cuts the date short and has him write apologies as punishment. Killua, who has just killed Ramot, takes him away from her, who gives chase. While being dragged away, Gon is confident she means no harm to him. Nov's arrival pacifies Palm and effectively ends her relationship with Gon. He has Shoot spy on the duo to assess whether they're ready to see Kite. The extermination team members minus Netero gather and Shoot releases Kite from the cage of his Hotel Rafflesia. The sight of Kite's scarred body arises an unbearable sense of guilt and anger in Gon, who lets the training puppet strike him over and over. When he finally dodges and hugs him, he triggers the second level, which requires aura to clear. He tells Kite the rest and that he'll take care of everything, asserting that he'll deal with Neferpitou himself. Under the guise of the former king of the Republic of East Gortou, Meruem initiates the process of forcibly awakening Nen in the civilians of East Gortou, resulting in the deaths of millions, in order to form his own personal army to conquer the world. A few weeks after discovering Kite's state, Gon appears to have lost his fury. The night IRS leaves him and he becomes capable of using Nen again, Moral pretends to have doubts about him and orders him to punch him with all his power. Thinking about Neferpitou and Kite, Gon forces such a vast amount of aura in his fist that the whole extermination team is astonished. Killua brings him back to his senses and he stops before attacking Moral, apologizing for nearly killing him. Moral declares his approval and the extermination team splits in 3 parts to secure the royal guard away from the king at midnight on the day of the selection, 10 days from then. As per their request, Gon and Killua are assigned to dealing with Neferpitou. Due to East Gortou's spy system, Gon and Killua are forced to infiltrate the country while keeping out of sight of civilians. Upon crossing the border, they find out a massacre has taken place in an abandoned village near the border, which prompts Killua to deduce the selection has already begun. Gon decides to attempt to stop it, even if it means being discovered. Killua tells him he'll do it by himself and that Gon should save his strength for Neferpitou. He orders him to remain hidden no matter how many people he sees being murdered. Gon senses something's wrong with his friend but agrees to split up. He's ambushed by Snake, whom he easily beats and leaves tied to a tree, and then by Hollow and Bat to test him. He struggles against their biological advantages in the darkness and teamwork. When he's about to beat Bat after luring her in, Hollow deflects his paper. The two switch roles, with the owl attacking in his gorilla mode and the bat distracting Gon with her secret noise. The boy eventually manages to defeat them by using their coordinated attacks against them, sending Bat crashing into a rock wall and punching Hollow in the direction of NGL with rock. Sensing someone is still following them, Gon begins running through the woods until he reaches a massive desert. At that point, Melioran reveals himself as his pursuer to stop him. After initially mistaking him for an enemy, Gon accepts to form an alliance with him. Melioran is bothered by the ease of which Gon trusts him, but the boy simply replies that if he's lying, he'll kill him without hesitation. When Gon points out he should not smoke, Melioran demonstrates perfect plan and claims his goal is to slay the king. After a few antics, he states he wants to avenge Peggy's death. The two shake hands and Melioran activates another ability, God's Accomplice, with which he makes Gon impossible to detect too. He then reveals the 3 Chimera Ants who attacked Gon were his underlings, whom he sent to test the boy. Gon thinks of pairing him up with someone else, but Melioran replies that just because Gon can easily trust that person, there's no guarantee he will too. Gon phones Knuckle, who informs him Moral and Nav have mobilized to stop the selection. They meet up in Mondai where, at Gon's suggestion, Melioran conceals his presence to observe Knuckle and Shoot and determine whether he can trust them. As he does, Gon states he cannot get through to Killua and notices the stray dogs who have followed Knuckle. Melioran ends up trusting the other 2 hunters. 3 nights before the selection, Gon receives a phone call from Killua, who asks him to wire money to an account so he can leave a hospital. The only person he's unable to contact is Palm, who's infiltrated the royal palace of East Gorto. Moral tells him Nav has planted all the exits, but he's unable to continue. 2 days before the raid, Knuckle, Shoot, Gon, Killua, Melioran, and Ikalgo come together to discuss and review the plan. Gon voices his concern about Palm, who's not contacted yet. Killua replies she's either dead or lying low, and understands Gon would like them to come up with a plan to save her, even making it their priority. The 6 then split up to confuse the royal guards. The following day, Killua goes over scenarios in which the royal guards aren't behaving as expected. Gon phones Call to understand why Neferpitou turned off their N. They determine the king must have injured himself, a theory they share with Moral. At 1800 on the same day, the 3 enter Nav's dimension. Gon immediately inquires about Palm, from who there has been no news. He swears once again to restore Kite and defeat Neferpitou. When, 10 minutes before the raid, the extermination team begins to move out, Gon is still thinking about Palm. 3 minutes later, they enter the room connected to the exit deepest inside the palace, leading to the central stairway. Gon ignores Killua and Ikalgo as they argue over unpredictable events. He has no reaction when Moral and Knuckle imply that Palm might have been chosen by the king to mate. When Moral asks in what situation one would hurt oneself, Gon, thinking about Kite, suggests the inability to forgive oneself as a reason. 6 minutes later, Moral has everyone gather in front of the exit. 10 seconds before midnight, Moral begins his countdown. Gon enters a focused, ruthless set of mind. He's the 4th to storm the palace, appearing next to the stairway and Yuppie. As he prepares to climb up, Zeno's dragon dive pierces through the palace. Gon avoids it while remaining completely focused on his opponent. Realizing the possibility exists that Knuckle and Melioran, rendered undetectable by God's Accomplice, were killed by the aura shards, he charges at the royal guard. When the latter is pushed aside by an invisible force, Gon realizes his 2 companions are still alive. He freezes for an instant upon feeling Neferpitou's N, which Yuppie exploits to bring down a colossal arm on the stairway, destroying it. Gon and Killua manage to dodge and change direction. Seeing Moral's smoky jail around the throne room, he realizes the king isn't there. He goes looking for him and notices Meruem, Zeno, and Netero walk out of the west tower. Netero spots him and points behind himself. Gon's fury surges. After seeing Zeno take Netero and Meruem away, Gon leaps towards the west tower, followed by Killua. On their way there, they run into the old assassin, who tells them to judge for themselves what's going on inside. Gon sees Pitou crouching over Komugi, Dr. Blythe hovering above them. Unleashing his rage, he states his purpose and challenges Pitou, the image of the wounded girl overlapping with Kite's body in his mind. He tells Pitou to step away from her, and their gesture of non-resistance leaves him baffled. He demands to know what Pitou is doing to the girl, and the Chimera Ant begins to explain the situation. When the royal guard begs him to give them time to save her, Gon snaps. He prepares to attack them, but Killua stops him. His willpower suffers another blow when Pitou breaks their own arm as a sign of good faith. Blinded with rage that they're helping someone after what they did to Kite, Gon begins to charge Jajanken, until Killua's words give him pause again. He accuses his friend of not caring and gives Pitou 1 hour to heal Komugi, after which they will accompany him to Peijin to restore Kite. He then sits down in front of the royal guard. Gon senses Poof approaching him from behind and prepares to attack Komugi. Pitou tells the other royal guard to desist. When Poof demands an explanation, Gon commands him to be silent and to remain where he is so he can't spread his hypnotic scales. He allows Pitou to give Poof an account of what happened. When Knuckle challenges the latter, he declares the body they see is just the shell, while his real self is going to the king's side. However, Gon casts doubt on his claim, demanding proof. Poof refuses to comply and splits himself up. After he leaves, Gon tells Knuckle he probably went south to look for the king. He declines Knuckle's offer to use Hakaware on the royal guard, leading Komugi to him as a hostage instead. Once in front of Kite's body, Pito, who has been tricked by Poof into believing Komugi had been rescued, reveals the man is dead and they cannot bring him back to life. Gon's sense of guilt makes him feel responsible for Kite's demise, and when the royal guard heals himself and poises to kill him, Gon unleashes all the anger and sorrow he was keeping within himself, demanding from his nen all the power he will ever have without caring about the consequences. He turns into an older version of himself and, after kicking Neferpito up in the air, punches them into a mountain with an immensely powerful rock. Despite their passing out, he keeps hammering their skull until it cracks, remembering Kite's lesson. Just as he delivers the finishing blow, a horrified Killua arrives. As Gon acknowledges his presence, Pito's corpse starts moving again thanks to Torp Sakura. Killua pushes him out of the way, but Gon loses an arm in the attack. However, he claims to be fine and even happy since he looks just like Kite did in his final moments. He proceeds to beat up and impale the headless body with his own severed arm. Before using one last Jajanken, he turns to Killua, who begs him to stop. Shedding one tear, Gon carries out the attack. In the aftermath, he falls unconscious and Killua carries him to the rest of the extermination team. He's put into a hospital in a comatose state in extremely precarious conditions and requires life support. The doctor thinks to himself, saying he has never seen something this gruesome happen to a 12-year-old boy in a single night. 13th Hunter Chairman Election Arc. Killua goes back home at Kukuru Mountain to seek help from his younger sibling, Aluka Zoldyck. He leaves with her, accompanied by some of the Zoldyck family butlers. En route to the hospital, he faces his older brother Ilumi, who teams up with Hisoka to stop them. After overcoming this, Killua and Aluka finally arrive at Gon's room, where Aluka proceeds to heal Gon. As Aluka is healing Gon, she emits a large energy wave. The wave is so powerful that everyone in the vicinity of the Hunter Association's building felt it. Cheeto states that she's never felt anything like it before. As Pariston's giving his final speech to the public, Moral opens the back door screaming at Leorio, and Gon walks through fully healed. As everyone's happy to see that Gon is fine, he notices Dun and List, and in between, Jin. He goes and walks towards Jin, and they finally meet for the first time since Mito took custody of Gon. Gon then starts crying about what happened to Kite, but Jin tells Gon it's not his fault. As Gon leaves with Leorio, Jin says he'll wait for him. Gon later meets with Kite and apologizes to her. They both agree that they need more training and promise to protect each other by fighting side by side. Kite tells Gon to go after Jin, and should she need his help, she'll contact him in Killua. Gon goes to meet Jin but is informed by Beans that he's already left and will wait for him at the top of the World Tree. Gon, accompanied by Killua and Aluka, travel to the World Tree together. Killua tells Gon that Aluka is the one who healed him. When he asks why he wasn't told sooner, Killua explains about Aluka's power and that they have complicated family issues. Killua then tells Gon that he plans on traveling the world with Aluka and that he's resolved to spend the rest of his life protecting her no matter what. However, Aluka tells Gon that she'll be hugging her older brother only for a while, but after she wants Gon to play and hang out with Killua again. Gon then climbs the World Tree and meets Jin. They talk about how Jin first started out as a hunter and what he's looking for and why he is how he is. He tells Gon about the outside world and the fact that the Chimera Ants originated from said place. He explains to Gon that the world is a vast place with so many secrets and that he should take his time on his own journey. After talking some more, Gon returns Jin's hunter license. When Gon returns to Kite and her exploration team, he sees a flock of birds and takes a picture, sending it to Knuckle, Shoot, Palm, Icalgo, Melioran, and the rest of his friends at the hospital, along with Killua, Aluka, and Leorio. Dark Continent Expedition Arc. Shortly after his conversation with Jin, Gon discovers he can't use his aura. Gon has a brief discussion with Jin over the phone about not being able to use aura, after which Jin suggested that Gon probably just can't see it because he's reverted back to quote-unquote normal. Jin stated that since Gon threw it all away as one of the conditions to increase his power enough to beat Pito, then surviving that ordeal should be more than enough, and to expect or ask for more would be audacious and for which he has to pay a price. Jin then suggested that this would be the best time for Gon to take some time to discover and decide what he would like to do from now on, implying that he could remain a normal person or reawaken his abilities and continue being a hunter with a new goal. Arriving on Whale Island, he's greeted joyously by his Aunt Mito and his great-grandmother. Gon confesses while talking with Mito that he never really wanted to meet Jin, but simply wanted to find him. Inferring that Gon is now normal, Mito then takes out stacks of books and papers, telling Gon that he needs to complete 4 semesters worth of schoolwork that he missed while he was gone adventuring as a hunter to get a learning certificate from the Schooling and Welfare Office. Furthermore, he also has to write 10,000 words of activities report of what he's done until now and 30 pages of the career record. This upsets Gon, but Mito reminds him that his status as a hunter has granted him a number of exemptions involving his schoolwork, and that the challenge of his makeup work pales in comparison to the many trials he's overcome. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Thanks for watching, I'm out.